Bleach 1000-Year Blood War episode 45, titled To Defend You, is finally here. It's time to break down and analyze how this episode compares to the manga. In all honesty, I'm going to just outright cite at the beginning of this video, there is virtually very little manga material adapted into this episode because most of the episode consists of entirely anime original content. I mean, heck, if there's anything from the manga, it's from chapter 677. But we are honestly going to dive into all of this as we progress through the episode and analyze all of the anime original additions within episode 45. This is pretty much understandable as last week's episode had almost 6 to 7 chapters worth of manga content, so it was more of a faithful adaptation than an anime original spectacle. As always, I'll refrain from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adaptations from the manga, and I'll solely focus on what has been cut, changed and added to the anime. So without further delay, here is my manga versus anime comparison for episode 45 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. So episode 44 ended with the adaptation of the final page of chapter 676 where Ichigo launches his Gran Rei Saro Getsuga Tensho against Yhwach. So before the opening, the episode adapts the first 3 pages of chapter 677, from where Yhwach says a fusion of Getsuga Tensho and Gran Rei Saro, a fitting power for one born from a fusion of so many things, all the way up until Ichigo clashes with Yhwach on the 3rd page. So with the nature of this episode and how it begins and progresses, I think it's best that we go over the events of chapter 677 because the entirety of this chapter is reworked into the runtime of this episode. Only a handful of moments from this chapter are adapted and the rest of it is entirely changed for the anime version. So before the opening, we of course had the scene where Yhwach clashes with Ichigo. He then says, "I know what you're thinking, Ichigo, he underestimates me, that's why he won't use his ability. He doesn't know my power when I'm fused with a hollow. It's now or never, the only chance to defeat him is right now while he underestimates me." That's exactly right. But that moment just passed. It's a magnificent power, Ichigo, so magnificent I must always be on guard. We then cut to Orihime with his shield activated as she watches the battle, Yhwach Ichigo clashing repeatedly. Ichigo dual wields against Yhwach, as Yhwach says, "Did you think dual wielding was a privilege reserved just for you?" As Ichigo dashes backwards, but Yhwach tells him be careful, there's a trap there, as he uses the Almighty to pierce through where Ichigo's foot is placed on the ground. Ichigo jumps up, bounces off the wall, as Yhwach says that's right, there too, as another bit of black Reiatsu pierces through Ichigo's foot. As he comes crashing on the ground, he thinks to himself, damn it, he's got traps set up all over the place. Yhwach then tries to cut down Ichigo. As he evades the attack, he says, "I'm sure you've heard, the Almighty lets me see the future. So because you can see the future, you can plant traps where I'll put my foot down," Ichigo says. As he goes on to exclaim, "If that's the case, why couldn't you connect on that last attack?" Yhwach smiles as he swats Ichigo away. As Ichigo notes, he missed again. He doesn't see everything. If he did, he should have been mounting an attack instead of just blocking my strikes. His ability has limitations, I need to find out what they are. So you can see the central focus of 677 is Yhwach activating the Almighty and utilizing it against Ichigo's Horn of Salvation. As Yhwach says, "You're looking, aren't you, for the hole in my ability. The future can be changed. Evolving in the midst of battle will let you step into a future different from the one I see. That's what you're thinking, fine. Then stand still right there." As Ichigo stands there doing nothing as he begins to be cut. He crashes to the ground as Ichigo says, "What the hell is going on? A trap suddenly appeared behind me." Yhwach says, "Ichigo, you are mistaken. The future doesn't lie on a single path. The future is like grains of sand scattered before me. Each one of those seemingly isolated grains of sand is the future. To put it another way, they can also be called possibilities. Ichigo, I enjoy speaking of hope. The future can be changed, that is a fact filled with such great hope. You evolve through your battles, fine, that too is filled with hope, but changing the future simply means jumping from one grain of sand to another, and I can see every grain of sand from high above. Please do not give up hope, Ichigo, stay the way you are. Keep jumping from the rolling grains of sand called fate or possibility with your eyes shut, that is hope for humans. Do not lose hope, there is nothing more painful for a parent than killing a child in despair. As Ichigo says, "What about despair? I know all about it. I've overcome it time and time again," as this leads to his Bankai activation. Now, the reason why I went through all of the events of this chapter is that in the manga, they all take place before Ichigo activates his Bankai. It seems like the anime has rearranged things as Ichigo activates his Bankai first, then a lot of the moments from this chapter will be adapted hopefully later in the episode, as some of the dialogue here from before he activates his Bankai is shown after he activates his Bankai in episode 45. So while not all of 677 is adapted in this week's episode, I do believe that portions of it will be adapted in future episodes, especially the dialogue about Yhwach utilizing the Almighty, because he doesn't really use it in this episode. Instead, he's relying on that Black Soul King Reiatsu to maneuver around Bankai Ichigo. But yeah, we'll get to that as we progress, as we're about to now talk about scene by scene each of the anime exclusive scenes within this episode. And let me be honest, over the entire 27-minute run of the episode, there's literally maybe a minute or two of manga content, and the rest is material that we have never seen before. So we begin with about a minute-long scene featuring Chad, Ganju, and Rukia and Renji who catch up to them. So Chad uses La Muerte against these statues. Ganju cheers on as he says, let's keep this pace up and get through the rest of them. The statues are unaffected by the attack as they get back up, and it's the Black Reiatsu that is healing them. They then turn their spears towards Ganju and Chad, but they then end up being beheaded by none other than Zabimaru as Renji and Rukia arrive on the battlefield, much to Chad and Ganju's surprise, as Chad says, is it just you guys, where's Ichigo? They explain that he went with Inoue to where Yhwach is. So yeah, Renji explains, I guess we should just be thankful he didn't run off by himself. So Renji tells Rukia to go ahead to Yhwach's throne room and he'll take care of things here with Chad and Ganju. So yeah, she rushes forward as the battle against these statues continues. So he says, you don't seem to get it, you're all just my warm-up. Now following this, we cut back to Uryu vs Haschwalth, and this is the first time that we're seeing them again since episode 43. So that Black Soul King Reiatsu that Haschwalth's using throws Uryu through multiple floors as he's hurtling through the air. He begins to rain down multiple arrows against the Black Reiatsu as Haschwalth says, is running away all you're going to do, Uryu Ishida? Again, all of this is anime original content, and this runs for about 50 seconds, this Uryu vs Haschwalth segment. So yeah, Uryu's impaled by Haschwalth's sword as he goes crashing down, but he regains his footing, fires multiple arrows into a massive arrow at Haschwalth, who blocks again with his Reiatsu. Again, those small scattered arrows, he tries to enclose them into Haschwalth, but Haschwalth swats them away. And yeah, this isn't going to be an easy fight. Yeah, Uryu's getting back up, Haschwalth lands, as he tells him, now draw your bow, last of the Quincy's. Again, this is all anime original dialogue. I'll strike down your arrows and expose everything about you, as Uryu looks really nervous, his lips are quivering, but he regains his composure as he says to him, go ahead and try. He has his arrows aimed at Haschwalth as he says, if your sword can reach me, that is. We then cut to a 5-minute long anime exclusive sequence of Ichigo and Orihime versus Yhwach. So it begins with Ichigo coming crashing on the ground with Orihime there, as he then bounces off the wall as he's charging towards Yhwach. There's some incredible moments here. Orihime watches on as they clash through the air. Orihime is watching the battle. Yhwach says, a vortex of chaos like no other. That is the very power of the Soul King. Again, they're clashing and he says, you cannot prevent it. Yeah, Orihime is just watching on as Ichigo is getting battered by Yhwach. She's protecting him with the Shiten Koshun from the Black Reiatsu, but it's overwhelming her. Orihime is laying on the ground there. The anime original scene continues with Ichigo being held up by his arm by the Black Soul King Reiatsu as Yhwach says, tell me Ichigo, what is power? For what purpose does it exist? He says you would likely answer that it's there to protect, but that kind of power is a weak power. So Ichigo looks up at him disgusted as he raises his sword in his hand, but the Black Reiatsu pins his other arm up into the air. The Black Reiatsu then wraps around Ichigo's body as he's pretty much held in place, as Yhwach says true power breaks men, brings the world to its knees, and it rules over all of the world. If you claim that you will defeat me, that is the kind of power it will be. To protect is a deception, as Yhwach then aims his sword at Ichigo. He tells him don't play the hero. We then cut to Orihime there, who's watching what's going on as she says to protect. She wants to protect Ichigo. Again, all of this is absolutely incredible anime original additions. She's reaching out as Yhwach appears to deliver a fatal blow, as she says, since my power is weak, as he's about to be impaled, if only my powers were stronger, I could. And yeah, Ichigo is then impaled by Yhwach's sword. The blood is gushing out of him. He is powerless to do anything to stop him. Orihime is there on the ground. This is all material that wasn't in the manga. It's a fantastic way to expand upon the contents of chapter 677. Orihime immediately heals Ichigo. Now this is where the attention turns from Ichigo to Orihime as he says such impudence. Ichigo keeps getting stabbed as Orihime keeps healing him, even to the point of breaking his sword, as he then fires a torrent of Reiatsu at Orihime as she rejects, as it overwhelms her, sending her rolling and hitting a pillow. Once again, the Reiatsu is fired at her, but it swerves, goes from above, and then impales her through the chest. Again, it's some really brutal scenes here as blood is splattering out of her mouth. Ichigo is powerless to do anything. She's laying there with blood splattered everywhere, impaled. Yubak says, "Do you really think you can afford to be concerned for someone else right now?" He then blows a hole through Ichigo's stomach, and it's a pretty massive hole, but Orihime instantly heals it back together. This is very similar to the hole that Ukiura blasts through Ichigo's stomach. So yeah, Orihime is not giving up yet. She stood back up in this anime exclusive scene. As Yubak says, "Fine then, continue to show me until your power is exhausted." Ichigo is thrown to the ground as Yubak turns his full attention towards Orihime. He then impales her, pinning her to a pillar with the black Reiatsu. Again, loads of blood is pouring out from her stomach where she's been stabbed. As she says, "I reject." She literally rejects the attacks from Yubak and is still standing on her feet, breathless. She then continues to be impaled multiple times by Yubak, but repeatedly she rejects and returns back to normal as Ichigo says, "Inoue." We then see her lying in a pool of blood. Again, it's absolutely insane what this anime episode has done with all these new additions, which are totally brutal and gruesome. She's on the ground, totally disheveled, covered in blood. She says, "I reject" once more. The glow of her spiritual pressure shines through as she gets back up on her feet, struggling with blood pouring, and she has this insane look in her face. Ichigo says, "You've done enough," as Yubak refers to Orihime as a pest. Ichigo is then pinned down as Orihime says, "I reject." She heals Ichigo once more, falling to her knees. She can barely stand. She's used the last of her power as Yubak says, "You're using the last of your power for Ichigo." She barely has any left to heal herself as she's struggling to lift her head up to stare at Yubak in total defiance as Yubak says, "What has that done?" As these black pillars of reishi then emanate from the ground. Orihime says, "If only my power," as the black reishi gets closer to Ichigo. "If only my power were stronger." And then a shield of ice appears to protect Ichigo, and it's none other than Rukia who freezes the black Reiatsu from Yubak. Orihime is shocked to see it, as Rukia says, "You did well enduring all of that, Orihime." Yeah, Rukia arrives to help. She says, "I'm here to help Ichigo." Yeah, so the ice freezes the black Reiatsu, shatters it as Ichigo is free, then to attend to Orihime. He asks if she's okay. Yeah, he thanks Orihime for helping him, as he then says, "Let me take it from here," turning his attention towards Yubak, as Orihime has literally done more than enough during this anime exclusive scene. Now, Ichigo and Rukia stand facing off against Yubak. What's to be noted is that Rukia doesn't even arrive onto the battlefield until a few chapters later. So in the manga, it's after Ichigo has activated his Bankai and he has failed against Yubak, and he sinks into true despair. This is where Renji and Rukia appear in the throne room, whereas in the anime it seems like Rukia's appeared on her own and she's fighting alongside Ichigo against Yubak. Yeah, Rukia says, "You changed a lot since I last saw you," as she comments on his Horn of Salvation form. "You look like you're rolled up in a black bucket and you've even grown a horn." Yes, there's a small comedic moment here, which again is anime exclusive, as Ichigo says, "Shut up, I didn't turn into this because I wanted to. The horn is cool. Besides, what gives? Don't show up out of nowhere just to criticize me." As Rukia says, "What, is that what you said to someone who came to help you?" As Orihime watches, like, honestly, what's this comedic scene going on while she's just there covered in blood? Ichigo says, "I didn't ask for your help." She says, "Big words coming from someone who's been beaten so soundly." Ichigo says, "I was just about to launch my counterattack." Yeah, they're both arguing with each other as the tension then breaks with Rukia smiling as she says, "Seems like you haven't lost your spine." As Ichigo says, "Damn right." Yubak then interrupts the moment by calling out to Rukia. He says, "You are the Soul Reaper who guided Ichigo." He finally breaks free from the ice that Rukia placed onto him, stating, "If I have any Shinigami to thank, it is you," explaining you triggered the awakening of Ichigo's powers. Rukia tightens the grip on her Zanpakuto. It's like she's reaffirming her resolve, as she says that I won't need to apologize for my rudeness. He and I will be the ones who will take you down. This is so hype. Both Rukia and Ichigo standing side by side while Orihime's taking a minute just to catch her breath. Yhwach watches on. Ichigo says, "Let's do this, Rukia," as they both charge towards Yhwach, and then we cut to an anime exclusive scene of Uryu vs Haschwalth, which runs for just under a minute. So yeah, the arrows continue to be fired against Haschwalth as they fuse together into a large arrow, which then forms these two stars as Haschwalth says no originality. He counterattacks with the Black Reiatsu, but again, this all-new technique used by Uryu, it seems to freeze in front of Haschwalth, as even he is a bit surprised. And Uryu appears to be counting here. He says 1, 2, and then he counts down to 3 as he then uses the arrows to subdue Haschwalth. It seems like Uryu has an intelligent plan in mind. While Haschwalth is tied up, he appears behind him ready to strike him, as Haschwalth says, "I see it." Yeah, he breaks free from Uryu's attempted attack. You can see Uryu's entire plan is to try and deduce a weakness within Haschwalth's power, as he's effectively using the Almighty here, which means that Yhwach is unable to use it at the moment. Only one of them appear to be able to use it at any given time. So Haschwalth says, "Imagine the last Quincy using his sword to attack behind my back." Uryu says, "This is an arrow. Prove that you can see what I'm going to say, Grandmaster." As he then fires the arrow at Haschwalth, who blocks the attack, if there is a next time, that is. Yeah, amazing visuals here. Uryu's pinned to the pillar as the Black Reiatsu holds him up in the air. He says, "You look pathetic, but it fits you well, Uryu Ishida." So that ends the just under 1 minute long anime exclusive Uryu vs Haschwalth moment. We will come back to them later, but for now we see Ichigo and Rukia and Orihime versus Yhwach. Now this is about 3 minutes long and it's mostly anime original content, with the final page of chapter 677 adapted where Ichigo activates his true Bankai, but that is about as faithful as this episode gets when it comes to the Bankai activation of Ichigo, because it is entirely changed within the anime. As the clash between them continues, he's hurtling through the air and we get these amazing 3D shots. They clash there while Rukia is there providing backup. Yhwach hasn't forgotten about her, he fires energy towards her, but she freezes it and cuts it in half. Yhwach manhandles Ichigo as both Ichigo and Rukia land, as Yhwach says that's an interesting power. It appears to shackle your ability to fight alongside your friend. So yeah, Ichigo is holding his powers back with the Horn of Salvation form so that he doesn't overpower himself too much, so that he can keep up the pace with Rukia. This again is all stuff that's new to the anime. Ichigo then tells Rukia to be faster, exclaiming, "Let's take down that bastard," as she says, "No need to tell me." They rush forward as Orihime looks totally exhausted. Now they clash with Yhwach, who charges up this massive red and black energy blast. They have to avert the attack, it's that fast, and it fires straight through the empty throne room, causing major damage to the surroundings. Orihime is shocked at the energy of the attack. Ichigo is above Yhwach, ready to cut him down with a blast of energy, but Yhwach blocks it with his sword. Yeah, Rukia is there about to cut Yhwach from the side, while Ichigo is there charging from above, but Yhwach smiles, as then these two waves of Black Reiatsu charge up, both aimed at Rukia and Ichigo. They blast, impaling Ichigo and Rukia. Orihime reacts in complete and utter shock as their lifeless bodies land on the ground. Again, Orihime clasps her hands saying, "If only," and we get this amazing shot of her eyes. She says, "If only I had the power." Ichigo's blood pours from his body as she reacts to the state of Ichigo and Rukia. She says they wouldn't have to get hurt like that if only she had the power. Her lips tremble as she says, "It's because my power is weak." The Black Reiatsu of Yhwach is then covering the scene as she says that's why Kurosaki and Kuchiki are suffering. She holds out both hands, you can see all of the blood on her arms there. She says, "If only my powers were much, much stronger." The Black Reiatsu of Yhwach then overwhelms the entire scene as all of the eyes merge into a single one. Her hands are trembling, she barely has the strength to even put up a shield as Ichigo then grabs her wrist. His calming energy soothes Orihime as Yhwach says, "Return to nothingness, you of feeble strength." Now this leads to the moment that we've all been waiting for. Yhwach fires this incredible blast of energy right at Orihime and Ichigo at point blank range. Yhwach says, "Goodbye, my son," as he turns around to walk away. But behind him, we see a blood red crescent moon. The entire scene turns red and it's honestly one of the greatest moments in the anime. He turns around to see the blood crescent moon in the sky. Again, entirely anime original content, which expands upon the final page of chapter 677, which is adapted so differently within the anime. Yubak says the moon as it seems like it's being eclipsed. Ichigo says Bankai as the blood moon is totally eclipsed. We then get this brief blink and you'll miss it shot of Ichigo with 2 horns activated on his head. This appears to be his fully completed holified form. Now, the episode title card appears to be burnt away and we cannot really see Ichigo in the visuals of it, but thankfully over on the official Bleach Animation X account they released the complete title card of 1000 Year Blood War episode 45. So we learned that this Bankai form of Ichigo is dubbed as Blood Chains Ichigo. This is called Kesa no Ichigo or Ichigo of the Blood Chains. Now chains are really important as he has this black reiatsu around his neck, both of his wrists and his ankles, and when he moves we hear the clattering of chains. Again, really striking imagery and it reminds me a lot of Ichigo's form from the movie for Hellverse, and it's similar to the chain aesthetic that we see with Zal Aparo, who appears from Hell in the No Breeds from Hell one-shot chapter. He uses chain powers too, so strangely are Ichigo's powers linked to Hell in some way in his true Bankai form. So the description reads, Ichigo Kurosaki, having awakened the hollow blood sleeping within himself and undergone semi-holification, he now attains Bankai. This is the ultimate form he takes together with his transformed Zanbakudo. He is crowned with 2 horns, evocative of the full holification, and a reiatsu of blood chains runs across his neck, arms and legs. In this battle against Yhwach, who has absorbed the Soul King, Ichigo unleashes power on an entirely new dimension in every respect. Here, spiritual pressure, physical capability and reaction speed are all enhanced. Now, what's crazy is that they've said that he unlocks power on an entirely new dimension. I mean, could this be power that he's unlocked from the dimension of Hell itself? Now, we all know in chapter 678, when Ichigo activates his Bankai, he pretty much only has it for a single page. Even the Bankai form that we see, the only real change is in Ichigo's Zanbakudo, as he still only has 1 horn on his head and we don't see any of the chains around his neck, arms or legs. So yeah, Blood Chains Ichigo is an anime exclusive form that didn't exist within the manga. But yeah, it's tied to Ichigo's true Bankai activation, and let me tell you, Blood Chains Ichigo is absolutely insane, as we're about to see in the second half of this week's episode. So following the activation of Ichigo's Bankai, we then get an anime exclusive Ichigo True Bankai vs Yhwach scene, which runs for just over 7 minutes. So the blood crescent moon is eclipsed, Ichigo's Bankai is activated, and yeah, we see Blood Chains Ichigo with the chain sound effects, the reiatsu around his ankles. He takes a step forward as we hear the clattering of chains. We also see the reiatsu around his wrists, which also clatters like chains. This black energy seeps away from Ichigo as he walks forward. His Zanbakudo appears to now be in a single state. Ichigo steps forward there with the black reiatsu dissipating, revealing his face with 2 horns. And there's a bit of a reddish tan to his face, with the black reiatsu around his neck. He's walking towards Yhwach, and honestly, that Zanbakudo just looks like a massive rectangular cleaver. His Shinigami coat is open there, he looks absolutely menacing. Orihime and Rukia are shocked as she says, I see, so that's your Zangetsu. What's crazy is that that glowing orange reiatsu is literally chains. It is so beautifully animated with the smoke clearing. Ichigo's ready to test out the true Bankai against Yhwach in this anime exclusive scene, as Yhwach says, I will force all the power you possess to yield before me. Yeah, then torrents of black reiatsu rise up in the sky with eyes appearing on there as 10 beams of black reiatsu charge up within the eyes and fire towards Ichigo all at once. Now what happens is that all of the beams avert away from Rukia and Orihime. Yeah, you can see there how they are dodging away like they're being totally negated to fire around them. Yeah, even Yhwach is taken aback by that reaction of the true Bankai. Yeah, then we see that that happened because of the orange reiatsu which Ichigo put up in front of him like a net, and you can see how it's chaining together there. The chains then disappear with Ichigo's sword in front of him. Ichigo states, "I need this power to protect everyone." Now what you'll notice is that when he's stepping forward, he's leaving behind these footprints of black goo. So it seems like he too possesses some form of Soul King energy. I mean, it would make sense as he is a Soul King candidate. Yeah, that shot looks absolutely menacing. Look at how he's looking up there at Yobag while he's casually walking towards him. This is honestly a Bankai fitting for an MC. The animation of the glowing red chains around his neck is amazing too. Yobag isn't afraid though, he smiles as he says, "That was weak, Ichigo." He then disappears, leaving behind a cloud of smoke. As he appears instantly before Yhwach, his speed is incredible. He's about to cut him down, but Yhwach evades the attack. But strangely, two black swipes of Black Reiatsu cut through Yhwach. As he wonders, what was that, a delayed slash? This is fascinating. Ichigo then doesn't hold back as he then charges against Yhwach again while he doesn't even have time to heal. Yhwach then summons a sword, stating, "No matter, I will simply parry," as he blocks Ichigo's strike. He cuts down Ichigo, but it's strange, Ichigo then dissipates into this Black Reiatsu. It seems like he too is altering the outcome of the fight, as he then strangely appears behind Yhwach. Now, I did speculate that this could be the true ability of Ichigo's Bankai, which is to alter fate. So he altered that fate where he was cut down by Yhwach so that he could appear behind him. Yhwach's even confused. He states, "I felt its impact. So how is it that Ichigo's behind him?" Yeah, Ichigo's wasting no time to explain. As he's ready to charge up his next attack, he clashes with Yhwach there. The energy that exudes is overwhelming. Now, while Ichigo's clashing, another Ichigo appears behind him. Yhwach is totally stunned here. How is there two Ichigos there? He then overpowers Yhwach while he's surprised, and then the other Ichigo from above comes to cut him down as he exclaims that despicable spiritual pressure. He then holds his hand out to block Ichigo's attack. He pushes him back there as Ichigo then lands on his feet and begins to run around, and Yhwach's firing off these blasts of Black Reiatsu from those pillars of Reishi. Yeah, Ichigo's charging in with his completed hollow form. He's evaded all of Yhwach's attacks. Yeah, each time that Ichigo is pushed back, he just charges forward. It's like that Black Reiatsu dissipates and a new Ichigo appears out of thin air. It's crazy how he's managing to do this, but this appears to be a central aspect of Ichigo's abilities. The Black Reiatsu also targets Rukia and Orihime in this anime original scene as Ichigo defends them too. He's swatting away all of these repeated attacks as he keeps rushing forward, striking at Yhwach. Again, the camera work here is sensational. This massive torrent of energy fires through Ichigo, who breaks apart into Black Reiatsu, and then he appears out of thin air again, charging towards Yhwach, clashing with him. Yhwach says, "It's a power I can only describe as different from the Shinigami. But I told you, Ichigo, you're weak." He swats him away again. Ichigo disappears. Yhwach doesn't even know where he is, but then we see Ichigo standing there with these black ghosts, multiple doppelgangers of Ichigo there too. I mean, these could be the different fates or different futures of Ichigo there appearing before Yhwach. He says, "It's a power that almost screams that you don't need your friends." This of course is the doppelganger state of Ichigo as he's multiplying himself, not relying on the help of others. This is why Yhwach says this. All of the black ghosts charge with Ichigo there, the main one charging with them. Now it's crazy how Yhwach is handling all of these threats. They clash, Yhwach hurtles through the air with all of these black forms of Ichigo clashing with Yhwach, striking him in the air. Now while the black forms of Ichigo pin Yhwach in the air, Ichigo then charges up against Getensho at point blank range. Yhwach hurtles towards the ground, and it seems like this could be the finishing blow. Again, this Getsuga Tensho is unlike anything that we've seen up until now. Ichigo looks absolutely demonic as this black and white Reishi is charged up, and we see the most strongest Getsuga Tensho of the series here land against Yhwach. Again, this is one of the most overwhelming strikes of the entire core. The attack is so overwhelming that it forms a black crescent moon, altering the skyline of Vaharveld. Everyone on the battlefield reacts to this attack. There we have adult Hitsugaya seeing the attack with Byakuya. There a collapsed Shunsui with Nanao watching the Black Getsuga Tensho. Again, this is amazing visual effects work here, with Ichigo's true Bankai Getsuga Tensho there rotating with this incredible CG work. Orihime even looks on shocked. Look at her state, she's covered in blood, barely reacting to what's going on, and we see this massive black crescent moon. I mean, honestly, after that you would think it's the end of Yhwach. Now between the points of the crescent moon, Ichigo is there, and he looks incredible in this shot here, with the blurry scene with his orange, golden, flaming Reiatsu around his neck and arms. That is honestly epic. It's like the eclipse from Berserk. Now that is what you call a finishing move. This true Bankai enhanced Getsuga Tensho. Now what's insane is that here we get dialogue from page 3 of chapter 677. Now originally in the manga, like we mentioned at the start of the video, before Ichigo activates his true Bankai. So the dialogue from the chapter is adapted here, where Yhwach says, "I know what you're thinking, he's underestimating me. I'll take him down in this instant. That's what you were telling yourself, correct?" Now of course the difference is here is that Rukia and Orihime are also reacting. Now the dialogue's a bit changed here, as Yhwach says, "I'm not underestimating you. To devour you, I need to understand you." So this is where it diverges from the manga. This is because Yhwach doesn't use the Almighty in the anime at this point, whereas he's freely using it in the manga version. So yeah, Rukia then exclaims, "Kill him, Ichigo, right now," as Yhwach extends out his black Reiatsu towards Ichigo's true Bankai. As Ichigo fires Getsuga Tensho, but then we see the black Reiatsu with all of the eyes there. Now this adapts page 4 of chapter 677 here, as it's mixed in with anime original content, where Yhwach says, "But that moment is just past." Now in the anime, all of those eyes charge up multiple blasts that fire towards Ichigo and all of those black doppelgangers, as Ichigo is sent crashing to the ground, and honestly it's like a watchtower with the amount of blast that Yhwach just fired. Ichigo comes crashing to the ground as Orihime crawls towards him, but she is lifted up by Yhwach's black Reiatsu, held in place there, forced to watch what's about to unfold. He says, "She will be the last one to witness you. I will make her watch you vanish from this world." Yeah, this is incredible. Unable to protect anything, unable to leave a legacy, and utterly powerless to act. Again, all of this is new dialogue, that's why I'm going through it here. And Orihime saying, "I will protect Kurosaki." I mean, just the way that they've totally overhauled chapter 677, I'm blown away. Yhwach says, "I commend your strength of will, but you fall far short of being able to fight alongside Ichigo, much less protect him. And you are here because Ichigo is unable to let go of his weakness for you." And then of course Ichigo, angered there, he breaks free and charges back towards Yhwach. Yhwach's relentlessly firing those beams at Ichigo. Again, he swipes his true Bankai, and what you'll see is that those beams literally avert away from Ichigo, like he's got some invisible force field in front of him. So incredible, but the beams then curl back around and fire at Ichigo, but he jumps back to evade them. Yhwach says, "That woman is your weakness now, and in the past. Paradoxically, what hinders your battle is the very reason you grip your blade." This is again playing up on that idea that his loved ones are his weakness, and that he rejects any aspect of his power which could lead them to be in danger. But here Ichigo utilizes a full controlled version of his hollow form, but Yhwach still says that his desire to protect is the reason why he is weak. So it is because you fight that you will be defeated. Then Rukia stabs a sword into the ground, freezing the ground as she calls out to Ichigo, as Ichigo is pretty much sinking into despair with Yhwach's words, but Rukia, as she did within the Arrancar arc, breaks Ichigo out of his mental despair. Again, it was only a momentary lapse, as Ichigo then concentrates and then rushes towards Yhwach once again. Now Rukia joins him by activating her Bankai. Now we see these multiple beams of black Reiatsu from Ichigo as he's rapidly dashing around. I'm sure it's multiple forms of Ichigo that are dashing around Yhwach here, as we see so many Ichigo doppelgangers covering Yhwach, all striking him at once, but Yhwach pushes all of them aside. Ichigo cuts through, ready to strike again, as they both clash with their energy. Yeah, it's amazing, they clash. Rukia's Bankai activates as Ichigo holds his own against Yhwach. Now, what's incredible is that he uses that reddish golden Reiatsu to wrap chains around Yhwach, tightening his grip, while Rukia activates her Bankai. Now the Bankai literally freezes everything in the surroundings. Yhwach is frozen as Ichigo is ready to deliver the finishing strike, fires a Getsuga Tensho at point blank range. Now this should defeat Yhwach. It's the very same Getsuga Tensho that he unleashed earlier, the finishing attack. Now the black Reiatsu that was holding Orihime freezes as it shatters, freeing her too. Now this should be over, right? I mean, Yhwach should be defeated, Ichigo and Rukia would have been successful. Now Orihime has blood dripping from her as the ice cracks, and we see the truth of the situation, as Rukia is there impaled by the sword of Yhwach in this bloody gruesome scene. It's honestly so brutal. Orihime's reaction is so visceral as Yhwach says this is power. That was foolish of you. Ichigo is also impaled on the ground before Yhwach, with Yhwach's foot on Ichigo's head as he says, "My dear Ichigo." Yeah, Orihime is absolutely shocked as we're now nearing the end of this 7-minute anime exclusive scene, as he says this is where the power to protect that you spoke of inevitably leads, and it is proof of the strong power that I speak of. Again, these are the versions of power, so both of them are using some form of soaking power. Ichigo's is reliant upon the theme of protection, while Yhwach is on strength itself. Orihime is absolutely shocked as she continues to say to herself, if only my powers were stronger. Again, this is the central theme of Orihime's character within this episode, is that she wants stronger power. As she watches helplessly, she can't do anything to help Ichigo and Rukia right now, but she affirms to herself that she's still going to do something, as 2 petals break from her Shunshin Rika powers. Now we cut between Uryu vs Haschwalth and Orihime vs Yhwach a few times here during the closing moments of this episode. So while Orihime is about to activate new powers, we see Uryu about to be impaled by Haschwalth here. So Haschwalth says, "Vanish like the dust, Uryu Ishida." Now Uryu puts his hand in his pocket as he's about to pull out something. Haschwalth laughs as he says, "It's exactly as I saw it, Uryu Ishida. Your last resort. I see your next move," as he's holding a samurai glove. He puts the glove onto his left hand there, as Uryu says, "Maybe you shouldn't use His Majesty's Yhwach's power without a plan. You'll leave yourself vulnerable." Haschwalth says, "Vulnerable? Is that because you managed to get behind me?" As we then see an attack that's being charged up behind Haschwalth. Now Uryu's surprised, but he might be faking it. This guy definitely has a plan up his sleeves as he grits his teeth. And then we cut back to the next anime original scene as we see Orihime versus Yhwach again, as she calls out to each of her spirits of her Shunshin Rika powers. She gets up there, she barely walks forward, taking these steps. We see Rukia impaled there in this incredible anime exclusive scene. She's staggering forward, calling out to her spirits as they encircle around her. Yhwach's attention averts from Ichigo as he looks at Orihime moving towards him. These incredible Shunshin Rika powers are circling around her. Now Yhwach lifts up a pillar of black Reiatsu with the eye firing a beam of energy towards Orihime. This death beam is negated by Orihime as she too appears to have an invisible force field in front of her. Now this particular scene here runs for just under a minute. Yhwach is now interested as he lifts his head, takes his foot off Ichigo, he stares at Orihime. Now he's gonna fire multiple death beams at her, with 6 that are charged up and fired directly at Orihime. Orihime stands there, she says to herself, "Why am I so weak?" Now what's crazy, we see Orihime's bloody legs and feet as the blood appears to be raising up into the air. It's like the blood is going back into her body, like she is gradually healing herself. She says, "Why are my powers inconsequential?" Again, the Shunshin Rika powers are hauntingly flowing around her as her silhouette is seen there with the reddish smoke behind her, and it truly seems like she's activating a new part of her powers. We then cut back to Uryu versus Haschwalth. Now this scene runs for just under 30 seconds. And it features Uryu utilizing the antithesis to put the samurai glove onto Haschwalth as he realizes that Haschwalth has a weakness with his version of the Almighty as he is unable to use it each time for 3 seconds. So Haschwalth says, "I see it already," as his attack fires at Haschwalth from behind. Now Uryu uses this to take advantage of the situation as he grabs Haschwalth from behind as he says, 3 seconds. If you saw me looking for a way to escape, then that will be your undoing. Once you use your ability to see into the future, you can't use that power again for 3 seconds. Again, incredible anime exclusive details here that were not in the manga. All of this was off-screened. Heck, I don't even think this was planned out to this extent within the manga version, as Uryu is genuinely using his strategic tactics here, which he never even utilized in the manga version. So yeah, Haschwalth says a mere 3 seconds will not give you a chance at victory. But then, yes, the antithesis is used to place the Sanrei glove onto Haschwalth's left hand. Now, we know right now Haschwalth is using the Almighty, and what Uryu is doing may be a massive moment that's gonna backfire later. As he says, but it is still 3 seconds. Orihime at the same time is walking forward towards Yhwach, the blood is raising up there, and honestly, if you thought that she was broken before, this proves that literally she is one of the most broken, overpowered characters in Bleach. This is why Aizen took an interest in Orihime's powers. And she says, if only my powers were much stronger. The Shunshin Rika powers in front of her are forming a circle, and it seems like a pinkish portal which she walks through. As she says that she wants her powers to be so strong that she couldn't hold it all herself. If it was so great that it was boundless, she then falls in front of this portal, then I could envelop the whole world. So while she is lifeless, Shinrika powers breathe new energy into her body as she watches Ichigo impaled in the ground, Rukia there impaled on Yhwach's sword. Now, incredibly, the fairy girl has been activated. She flies through that portal, she gains this pinkish tint. She says, I would make it so that they never happened. Yhwach kicks Ichigo away as Orihime flies past Ichigo, blood dripping from her face. Ichigo sees her. The ending song plays as we get this slow version of the song. We see the 2 flowers there that Orihime saw in the botanical garden. We see this shot of Ichigo from behind, again reminiscent of Orihime always being behind Ichigo, but now for once she is able to stand forward and fight alongside Ichigo and for Ichigo. This is a pivotal moment for her character, and the anime does such an incredible job of expanding upon Orihime's character arc from the manga with these all new anime exclusive scenes within episode 45. She says that is why. As Yhwach says, are you throwing your life away, Orihime Inoue? Now, golden energy appears on Orihime's head as it forms a circle, and then it forms this flower-like pattern on her forehead. It looks absolutely incredible as she then pushes out this pattern in front of herself, and it forms like this attack that blasts Yhwach. Now it seems like a self-destructive move, as we then briefly cut back to Uryu vs Haschwalth for the final time in this episode, and it's a brief moment that's just over 10 seconds long, as Haschwalth says, do you think this is going to make your powers disappear, Uryu says, as he breaks the Sanrei glove on Haschwalth's arm. Now that is incredible. Now we see the energy leaving Haschwalth's body, his eyes have returned to normal. Now I think that this moment here is going to massively backfire, but Orihime's sacrifice may have been in vain as she takes out Yhwach that we see, but Uryu removing the powers of the Almighty from Haschwalth means that they return to Yhwach at the very moment that Orihime takes him out. So now he has access to the Almighty, which would allow him to bring himself back to life and possibly Orihime undoing the attack that she did. Now this means that Haschwalth would no longer have access to the Almighty, which means that the rest of his battle with Uryu will be reliant upon him using the balance versus Uryu's the antithesis. I think this is why they are switching between Uryu vs Haschwalth and Orihime vs Yhwach here in order to highlight the key events that are unfolding between these two battles. Because Uryu's actions here are deliberately going to lead to the revival of Yhwach, I presume. Yeah, so the Almighty leaves Haschwalth. All of these eyes appear to be absorbing into Yhwach as Orihime's attack is landing at the same time. And yeah, it seems like the episode is concluding as Ichigo says wait. Even Rukia says you shouldn't, Inoue. Again, the blood is pooling back up, she's reversing all of the damage that's been done to herself, she's healing herself while delivering the final sacrificial attack to Yhwach. It's literally Goku sacrificing himself against Cell, Majin Vegeta blowing up to defeat Buu. I cannot believe they've given this incredible moment to Orihime. Yeah, she lip syncs something to Ichigo there as he looks shocked at what she's about to do. Yhwach blasts away into smithereens along with Orihime, leading to one of the most shocking and emotional endings of any episode of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. I mean, what an anime versus manga comparison. I mean, what comparison was there? This episode was entirely anime original content. We literally had 2 moments from the manga that were adapted into this incredible 27-minute spectacle, as the final line of the episode is Orihime saying bye bye Kurosaki, I'll take it all on, okay? And as Orihime's flower wilts away and falls off, we learn that the true title of the episode wasn't Defend You, it was Life to Defend You, as Orihime literally gives her life to defend Ichigo. and it's so incredibly emotional. Like, I cannot believe that I'm welling up here just looking at this moment. And that's literally it. We cut to the credits as episode 45 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime ends on this brutal cliffhanger. Now, we know from the leaks on Club Outside that episode 46 is titled The End, and with the way that this episode unfolded, your guess is as good as mine as to what we can expect in the events of episode 46 to 50. So much is yet to be adapted, but the manga has been chopped and changed around so much that I don't see them literally adapting anything from the manga one-to-one anymore. They might adapt certain moments, but rearrange them into the new story that the anime is telling. This is literally an enhanced, reworked version of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, as we're seeing transformations that we've never seen before, entire fights, and multiple minutes-long sequences that didn't exist in the manga. Uryu versus Haschwalth's battle is unrecognizable here. The way that Ichigo activated his true Bankai, and the fact that we got to see an extended look at Ichigo using the true Bankai, that was totally unprecedented. Within the manga, within the turn of a page, the Bankai's gone. But the anime here truly gives it justice by giving it a all new form with Ichigo's blood chain transformation. I'm speculating that Uryu's attack against Haschwalth was really well thought out, but it also prevents the undoing of Yhwach if only he didn't utilize the Sanrei glove, because I believe that now the Almighty's returned to Yhwach, which will allow him to undo his death in this moment. That's pretty much making Orihime's sacrifice to be in vain. I'm guessing Orihime will also return when Yhwach brings himself back to life, as he will undo the moment of Orihime's attack. This will then lead to Yhwach sinking Ichigo into despair by breaking off the horn on his head and undoing his true Bankai, as he then leaves for the Soul Society, as he will then encounter Aizen. Now, I don't know where Isshin and Ryuken are going to play their role within the story here, but I do think that they also will have an anime exclusive contribution. I mean, just imagine if they expand upon the clash between Aizen versus Yhwach, which is almost guaranteed. I mean, we got a few panels in the manga, but I think that we're going to get so much more within the anime, especially if episode 45 is an indication as to the additions that we're going to be getting. I mean, there were entire 7 to 10 minute chunks of scenes that were exclusive to episode 45. I also assume Uryu vs Haschwalth is now going to be a battle of shrifts, so the balance versus the antithesis. This episode didn't end with a poem or a next episode title card, but it ended with an absolutely incredible cliffhanger. We've now reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Did you enjoy one of the best animated episodes of Bleach of all time? What do you think about Orihime's sacrifice? What are your thoughts about Bloodchain's Ichigo? What do you think about Uryu's extremely intelligent plan, which may have backfired now? And what do you think of those gruesome scenes of seeing Ichigo impaled multiple times, Rukia impaled, and Orihime impaled several times too? This was a brutal episode from start to finish, one of my favorite episodes of Bleach of all time, and I think that the anime staff still have even more surprises to give us, so do stick around for even more Bleach content, as I'll be breaking down and analysing episode 46 next week. But as for now, stick around to the channel, subscribe, because I'll be releasing multiple videos breaking down the new transformations and moments from this episode, as there's still quite a lot of Kubology to unpack from episode 45, which I'm sure you'll be excited to see. Lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next Bleach video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.